Hello, everybody, and welcome back to One Thing at a Time podcast. When I was in the process of editing this podcast, I realized that we had no introduction whatsoever to what we were talking about. So today we have an interview with Marcella Laine. She is a destination wedding photographer based in Seattle. We really enjoyed our time talking with her. Also, if the audio is a little messed up, I apologize. We did this via Zoom just because we're so professional. And also, this is an audio only episode today because we're dumb. We're dumb. And I couldn't figure out how to get the video from Zoom. Listen, we all learn. We learn from our mistakes. Feel free to let us know what you guys think of this episode. And don't forget to follow Marcella Laine on Instagram and all of her socials. All right, we hope you guys enjoy this episode. Okay, all right. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Welcome back. Okay, so tell me everything about yourself. I need to know like a little bio.
Amazing. My name is Marcy. You might know me as Marcella Laine. I'm a destination elopement wedding photographer. I'm based in Seattle. I do creative workshops. I have some online education stuff. Yeah. What else can I tell you?
Just like amazing photographer in general. You have like literally my favorite work ever.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind.
No, I'm serious. Okay, so like describe your style a little bit for the people that don't like know who you are. Like what's your like style as far as like editing and just your approach to photography in general?
Absolutely. I shoot primarily what I would call natural photojournalistic style for all kinds of events. So weddings, elopements, I don't have really any specific niche too much, except mostly in landscape driven spaces. So a lot in the outdoors, a lot in destination work, kind of all around the world, kind of across the scale of sizes and luxury, also super low key. Not really like any specific niche. I feel like some people in the industry have such specific niches, but I have always kind of tried to be universal in that sense. And so it's really focused on landscape, my work, which kind of came into being how I did it in maybe like during the pandemic. So 2020 was supposed to be a year where I had like 10 international jobs. I was so stoked for where my career was headed. And then as things started to fall apart in March, I really started to align with like where I was shooting, the types of clients I was working with, because all of my work was getting postponed. But then I started to book a ton of really small local jobs. And so I was driven to explore Washington to a degree I hadn't previously, even though I had been shooting in the outdoors in Washington for, 5 years at that time. I was so eager for this stimulation of large scale travel that being able to reapply that was really grounding for me in kind of returning to basics almost. And so that's when my work really targeted towards more landscape. And I got to work with really, really cool people who similarly had a vision of what was going to happen in that year or for their event, and then had to just totally drop and replan. And so working with people like that really drove me to create like outstanding imagery where we were. And that really propelled my career forward, I would say, in the outdoors element, which is a huge part of my work. I shoot mostly candid style. So I try to direct my clients and I create scenes, is what I call it, for them to guide them through that, as opposed to poses and stuff like that. And then my editing, I would say it's kind of all across the board. Everyone has a different idea of like what a style is, right? So some people call, especially clients, it's so interesting. Clients will reach out and say like, I love your filmy edits. Some people will call it clean. Some people will call it like close to tone. And it's so across the board that I feel sometimes like not even comfortable claiming a certain style as well. I try to keep colors semi-consistent with what they were originally. So definitely enhanced and altered, but not necessarily like overly warm or overly cool or overly vibrant. And I definitely pull a lot of my inspiration from how I edit, from how the mood of the shoot wins. So how I edit on a sunny day is going to be a lot different than how I edit on a rainy day. Similarly to the energy that the client gave me, how if they're really soft and uh, reserved, that kind of impacts my editing as well, as opposed to like really loud, boisterous energy.
Oh, I love that. I loved all of it.
Right.
Okay, so has there been uh I wish everyone could see what you just did from
I'm
here.
like, I'm stuck on my, like, what did I say?
So has there been a favorite place that you've been to or a favorite shoot? I know you like it's hard to compare all of them, but there's
Yeah.
been like a few things that I've like stuck with. Like I can see some of your pictures in my mind. I'm like,
Oh,
oh my gosh.
wait, can you
I
describe one to me so I want to, you tell me a photo and I want to tell you. And then I want to
okay.
see what comes to my mind.
So I don't know if it was the Dolomites. It was a huge mountain range.
Yes.
And like I feel like a lot of your work is like the subject like so small compared to like
Yeah.
this vast landscape. It is definitely inspired by landscape and I love it. Like the people that are wanting to be like document people but also documenting the space, I feel like would really align with your work. It
Yeah.
was like a bunch of green. It was like a very green hilly area that they were at and huge mountains in the background. It just
Yes. No,
it's
absolutely.
stuck in my head. Like probably half your pictures.
Yeah. No, that makes me so happy. Yeah, definitely the European Alps. So, I mean, there's nowhere better than the Dolomites or the Swiss Alps. Like truly, it's the access to the outdoors in Europe is just so drastically different than what we're used to in the US, like what forest land and park service land versus private land in Europe. And just there's nothing like being in a tiny Italian town and also being in the mountains. Like it's basically
Mm.
just the best of both worlds. You're eating pasta and you're hiking to a refugio, and then you're having a beer and espresso before you hike down. It's just like the pinnacle dream. So I've been fortunate enough to shoot in the Dolomites a few times, and then I hosted my workshop Home in the Mountains last summer in Switzerland. I think you might be talking about the Switzerland photos with the green meadows, but I'm not entirely sure.
I'm
But
gonna
that
add
was
that.
one of my absolute favorite shoots of all time. So for that, I location scouted the first two spots for the workshop in outside of Grindelwald in Switzerland. And the third location I kind of kept open. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to pick it once I got there. And so my assistant
Mhm.
and I drove around for like a few hours and we found like a vantage point we loved. And then we just knocked on the farmer's door and asked if we could use his pasture. And because we knew we wanted to use like private land. And he was like, yeah, for sure. And so we got to shoot in like the farmer's meadow. It was like so beautiful. And we just took him like a bottle of wine and a thank you note on the shoot day. Oh, that is a different one. That is, can't
This
even
isn't
put
the one
that.
I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
I'm like this one also sticks rent free in my head. Like this,
Oh, that makes me so happy.
it's like
So
so
that was,
ethereal. Like this is like
yeah,
romantic ethereal. If I were to describe your word in or your work in one word, it would be ethereal. Like I love
that
it.
maybe my favorite thing anyone's ever told me. Thank you so much, especially coming from another creative. I'm like, I will wear the ethereal cap. Thank you for that.
Yes, period.
That was so same Switzerland trip. I was advertising my workshop, and some past clients of mine who they're amazing. They're some of the most adventurous clients I've ever had. They hired me for a 3-day engagement shoot on in Iceland, on the southern coast of Iceland, and but then they were getting married in Washington last summer, and they saw me advertising Home in the Mountains in Switzerland, and they were like, hey, can we actually elope in Switzerland instead? And then like just do our reception in Washington. And I was like, fuck yeah, of course. So
Are you
they came
kidding me? You don't even have to
along. I
ask me.
know. I'm like, you guys are my dream clients. So they came along to Switzerland like right before my workshop and we did that. Dude, the other thing about the outdoors in Europe is so often, so they're like a lot less populated as well. And
Mm.
so we, that particular hike we took a gondola up and then hiked like 2 miles. But because the gondola stops running at like a certain hour, we knew we were going to hike all the way back out, which is totally cool. But we were just like basically mentally prepared to hike like 5 miles out, 2 miles in. And because the gondola stopped running, like most people don't do that, we literally didn't see another soul from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. when we finally made it down. So like the sheer intimacy that you feel when you are like truly, truly the only people for miles and miles is so cool. And it was sundown and there were ibex, which are like the deers with like huge horns, just like scaling the rocks and then just like scattered wildflowers. And it was so beautiful.
I'm literally dying. That sounds beautiful. Like, I
Yeah.
love it. I found like a reel that it was this spot, the first spot. It's gotta be quick. Hold. Need to pull up your whole feed. That.
Yes, that's the
I
same
remember
thing.
seeing.
So that couple, that was the hike to the lake. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
How do you,
yeah.
this is such like a personal question, and if you
Yeah.
don't want us to have a insert it, let me know. How do
Yeah.
you price yourself
Yeah.
being that's like complete isolation? I feel like this is like a different, is it just based on country to country, or is it like you give an all-inclusive package? Like this
Yeah.
is just like a curious question. Like how do you even
So
price yourself?
yeah. I've gone through like several renditions of figuring out what works. And that's the thing is when you're trying to break into the destination industry, staying competitive while also actually making money can be a really hard balance to find. So, what I have landed on, which has worked for me consistently for the last like 2 to 3 years, is I have on my pricing guide, I have two packages per each. I'm sorry, I have two price points for each package. So I have a local price point, which is within Washington, and then I have a destination price point. And so the destination price point is an automatic $1,500 over the base Washington pricing. That does not
That's
include
crazy.
any of my travel. So that doesn't include my flight or accommodations or rental car, which, so it says for destination pricing, it's like the higher price. And then there is custom quote. So then when they reach out and they tell me the location, I will say that's going to be a 4 hour destination package plus X amount for this location. And then I kind of work with them. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people will try to work around my travel dates, which is awesome. So pretty frequently now, like if I'm already traveling, I will get like a couple who chooses to elope on those dates to like fit into my travel schedule. Like I have a wedding in Greece that I'm actually attending, not shooting, but some of my good friends' weddings in July. And right after, I just
Mm-hmm.
booked today, literally a Switzerland job for like on the way home. So I was able to offer them like a lower custom quote for my travel because I'll just be traveling there from Greece instead of Seattle.
Oh,
Which
that's
it's
fair.
one thing I've learned while traveling. Yeah, that's like so fair. Is it's a lot easier to get from country to country while you're in Europe than
Totally.
it is in the US. Like to it's really weird because like for a few hundred, sometimes less dollars, you can go from I took a hopper from Scotland to France for like
Oh
$95 and
yeah.
it's like even a flight to just from here to Oregon is like at least $800. It's
Oh
insane. Like
yeah.
just the difference in like ease of travel.
Totally. It's like not
But
even comparable to the
that's like
US.
very fair. Like it's insane. It's like a whole different world. Olivia's needs to go. We're gonna break her in. She's
Um,
she's a homebody girl. She's a US girl.
Oh, like home. Yeah, I feel that.
it's not necessarily that I have to overcome some things before I go out of the country.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. But I will say that the first few times I traveled, especially to like Ireland, I
Hmm.
got so sick from like just the plane ride
Oh gosh,
once
yeah.
I landed. It's like, especially because, you don't, it's not like the US where you hop off the plane and think you're where you're at. Don't give
Yeah,
me a
no,
thumbs down.
no, that was funny. No,
To-
she did not do that on purpose. Yeah.
I know it's
It was that thing where like
okay.
it's like a,
Yeah, I don't know
yeah,
what it is.
whatever.
It's like the FaceTime thing.
I like watched you see it though. You were like, what? I didn't do that.
I hope that this is recording video
Yeah.
because everybody is gonna know what I'm what's
Yeah.
what's happening. Um,
Yes,
yeah,
But
you
it
going to
will like
Greece? You're
Greece
living out
again.
my Mamma Mia dreams. I'm
oh,
That's gonna be
Mamma Mia dream.
Greece is Greece is amazing.
yeah.
It's like it's everything you dreamed of,
It's
for
on the
sure.
bucket list. It's on the bucket list, but I just have to get there first.
Yeah.
Work
Yeah,
myself.
for sure.
Work.
Well, like
We
you
will
were
get
saying,
there.
Haley, it like it being a it being in destination photography too, you have to be a skilled traveler because like I have gone to Italy for 4 days before for a job, and if you aren't able to like have the experience and knowledge of what it's like to get on a flight, get off a flight, troubleshoot. I've had clients in like Iceland meeting me there before, and they like missed multiple connections, had their bags lost. So much of it is being adaptable and having the confidence to like lead people in travel. And so, my body, I feel like I can sleep anywhere. I pass out on a flight. I will sleep from takeout to like takeoff to touchdown because my brain like knows that when I land, I will be at full speed going hard.
Mm.
I also like being able to drive in foreign countries, being able to drive on the other side of the road. So many things like that have to come into play when you are marketing yourself to work internationally that you don't really realize are like things you need to be skilled at.
That is one of the biggest reasons why I love content days, and I love like new beginner photographers. We were all once there, but the whole like fake it till you make it, there's instances that you're like you need to travel. Like if you're marketing
Mhm.
as a destination, it's
100%.
detrimental because if I had traveled to Europe for the first time ever doing like a shoot or anything,
Totally.
I would have been like, I wouldn't have been prepared for the time changes because
Yeah,
it's so drastic, even like for Georgia, which we're closer to. So it's not even
totally.
as much of an adjustment for you guys. But like I did a honeymoon session in Paris, but I had been to Europe before, so I kind of knew what I was doing to an extent, but it had been a minute since I've traveled. So like I was like, I'm gonna give myself 3 days, even though I'm only going there and doing like one session. I was like, and I'm so glad I did because I was so tired from the flight.
Mhm.
And it was like, had I had the session like that same day, which like sometimes you kind of when you are explaining like why your prices are so much, it's like it's not just one day. It's
Totally.
like a whole song and dance, and it's like
Absolutely.
transportation. And you've
Like
have you
finding a
been
dog sitter, getting an Uber, like all the things.
your
I'm
normal
sorry.
bills on top
Yeah.
of it?
Yeah.
You have been to Paris or no?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So you know how it takes like literally like 45 minutes to get from the airport to the city?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I
right.
was not, and I also like didn't know they like didn't have Uber or like Lyft, so
Yeah.
you have to literally take a taxi. And like they don't speak English. They don't speak English. So it's
Yeah.
like it's the little things honestly that you
Yeah.
like if you're skilled enough to be like, "Hey, by the way, you're going to need X, Y, and Z before you travel." Or
Totally.
the biggest mistake I made when I traveled to Europe for the first time was bringing a huge suitcase. Huge.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake. The cobblestone
Yeah.
streets won that day.
Oh,
Won. And
yeah.
everyone
100%.
finding a book bag that has a rolly thing so that like when
Uh-huh.
game changer. And anyone
Yeah.
that's traveled to Europe, they get it. Like they get it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, for sure. It's like crazy how much can go wrong. You're basically putting yourself in a situation where so many things could go wrong at once that if you're not equipped to adapt or change plans, like I was saying that Iceland job, like we lost like all of our shoot time because of how much they were delayed. And so if I hadn't have already scouted and known exactly where we were going and the access points and where to park and all of that stuff, then we would have been entirely like they would have had no photos.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And
I'm not
so
built. I'm not built that way. So
Yeah.
I gotta work myself up to get there.
But that right there is a strength too, is like knowing that, some people put themselves in this position thinking like they are equipped to deal with it. And then that's where like failure happens. But knowing yourself and knowing like what you would need to prepare mentally to do this in an effective way is like such a skill.
So
um
I have some like I told myself before I go out of the country, I do want to hit the places in the United States that I have never been. I was
Uh-huh.
not like we didn't really travel like as kids, so I haven't
Yeah,
really been many places other than the
totally.
states that are surrounding and also Oregon, and then we're going to Utah in April.
Yeah.
And so Utah was next on the list. I don't know what's next after Utah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
who knows? But me and him
Totally.
have become like we've just been like, oh, once a year we'll go somewhere just so I can like slowly but surely get to where we can
More
go.
we'll
comfortable.
probably
For
like
sure.
we'll soft launch you into Mexico probably.
No, that's another country.
That's
No, eventually when we are like my first country was Mexico, which it doesn't even count. I mean it
yeah.
counts, but like it's like Cabo. I don't know if you've ever been to
Yeah.
Cabo. It's literally
Yes.
Southern California. It's
So I
not.
actually never left the country until I was 20 either. But now I've traveled a ton. But and what's funny is I hadn't been to Mexico until like 3 or 4 years ago. But I had been to like all, the first country I ever went to was Italy, which is crazy. But I studied
How
abroad
could
there in
you?
college. And so it was funny to be like so far away. I never left home. Like my family didn't travel growing up or even like go outside really. Like I didn't know we had all these parks and stuff in Washington.
Right.
And so yeah, it was funny when I was 20 in college, I just like got dropped in
Wait,
Italy and was like, okay.
you grew up in Washington.
And I'd
That
never been to a national park. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, I was like so not exposed to anything growing up. I was very like, I mean, not sheltered by any means,
Yeah.
but just like reserved. And I was raised
Mhm.
by a single mom in Spokane. So like not a lot of, you know,
Right.
access to these things.
Yeah.
But now my family's or my mom and my sister are in Bozeman, Montana, which is awesome because it's a great place to visit.
Yeah. Maybe
Montana or Montana's
Wyoming.
next.
Yeah.
What? Probably the Tetons, because honestly, that has been the prettiest place I've been in the U.S.
The Tetons are one of my favorite places. It's a perfect place to elope. When people are like, we don't know where to elope, I'm like, go to Jackson because you have this like cute, kitschy, like not kitschy, like theme built in that's so fun. There's like this
Mhm.
slight Western tang, and then you have just beautiful access to really dramatic peaks, and then like beautiful weather. It's the best. My next home in the mountains workshop. I want to do a domestic one, and it'll probably be either Jackson or Montana.
So, do you see like a future with doing workshops? Like, do you love
Yeah.
it? What do you love
Yes.
about it? I need to hear.
Every time I do it, I'm like, it's so funny because I feel like people are really polarized by workshops. Like, they're like, oh my gosh, that's exhausting. I can't do that anymore. But personally, I really feel like I thrive in this setting, like creating a group experience and like go, go, go so much of the time. For me, it's like the most realistic simulation of what it actually feels like when I'm shooting like a 3-day destination wedding, right? So I'm like in a home with all these people and I'm on all the time. So I feel like maybe that's having so much experience in the destination world. Maybe that helps me a lot with like leading these experiential retreat things. But yeah, every time I host one, I'm like, oh, this was so much work. I probably won't do it again. And then as soon as all the peeps get there and it like gets rolling, I'm like, this is where I thrive. I belong here. This was the best thing ever. So I had done some domestic ones before I did. Joshua Tree was my very first one, and that wasn't really branded as Home in the Mountains. Home in the Mountains kind of evolved in 2021. It was my first like Washington-based one. It was in Mount Rainier, and that was a really fun, like easy 3-day workshop. And
Mhm.
then and then I hosted last summer Switzerland, which was so much work planning, and I was so intimidated taking 10 people internationally on an international trip, and a lot of people who haven't traveled before are like looking for a group experience that is an accessible way to travel. I was so nervous, and then it was truly one of the best weeks of my life. And then I just got home last week, a week and a half ago, from New Zealand, which was literally the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. The
New
group of
Zealand?
girls is, yes, so I just did home that was New Zealand. We got home like the first week of no, we got home, it doesn't matter. Got home like 2 weeks ago. But it was so fun. It's really cool to see the attendees evolve. Like my attendees are becoming a lot more experienced. And so what they're able to contribute to the dialogue and conversation and what they bring into the shoots is really rewarding to watch, like to see the education and community being built like holistically in front of me. And then the shoots are just they all went so well, and it's just the most fun I've ever had. So I have actually have too many ideas for upcoming workshops. So we'll see what happens.
So
I
are
have
you
3
doing
on the radar right now. What?
are you doing this all by yourself? Because it's like, are you traveling by yourself? Are you
No,
do you have an
so I have a
assistant?
team. I have my personal assistant. Her name's Nora. She's an amazing photographer, and she literally supports me emotionally, physically, mentally, like in every way. She's perfect. And so when I hired her, she's still in college. She's a senior, but she is like my PA. So she basically does like anything I need in a moment, right? So if I like think I'm like, call the taxi guy who's supposed to take us up to this spot or whatever, she manages that for me. My lead coordinator is one of my best friends named Crystal. And so she came along to Switzerland and like helped out a bit. And she was just invaluable in Switzerland. And so I delegated a lot of planning tasks to her for this last New Zealand workshop. And
Mm,
she just executed them all flawlessly. So she handles all communications for me. So communications with our Airbnb or our direct rental, communications with property owners, rental cars, stuff like that, as well as just manages tasks that might go over my head. So like making sure the girls have access to the visa forms and stuff like that.
mm,
And then I have we are like figuring out titles right now. It's so funny, but I call her like my marketing partner, creative partner. Her name's Kelly Moore. She's an incredible videographer out of Colorado, videographer and photographer.
mm,
But she actually attended my first ever Joshua Tree workshop, and then she came along to Home in the Mountains Rainier, and she made like a back end promo video. And as soon as she sent me that, I was like, okay, you're hired. Like you'll come to all of my workshops. And so she kind of helps me facilitate shoots.
mm,
So basically, if like while we're live shooting and there's only one of me, but an attendee needs help, then she is able to step in. She's taking BTS, she's taking all types of content and stuff of the girls. And then just kind of supports me in creative decisions as well. So in styling some of the shoots and stuff that I don't necessarily feel like I have the most skilled eye at, I'm really good at like creating a narrative, but not necessarily executing that. So
mm,
she assists me in that. And she's an incredible writer. She handles all of the copy and stuff for marketing.
mm.
And then I have it's like a whole fucking team. But
I'm
Ashley
glad because
Fairlight,
I'm like,
Love it.
what takes everything to make your brand possible? Because everyone's experience, like everyone's at a different level, and like
totally.
you do have a heavy following, especially compared to other photographers. And I'm like, is she a one woman show? Because
Yeah,
like I'm out here like with laundry on my bed, like
yeah,
struggling, and I'm
yeah.
just a Georgia photographer.
Dude, 100%. No, it took me to like a serious point of burnout before I even thought of hiring someone. And so Nora was my first hire. And she is it's just like we actually have more of like a big little sister relationship now.
It's like
Which
me and
I,
That's
Olivia.
how we are.
yeah. Oh, cute.
She's the
Wait,
big
you
sister.
guys are really, like best friends, right? You like
Yeah,
travel together.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Love it. Love it. Were you best friends before photography?
No, no, we
Oh, you
met.
met through
We
photography.
met because I did a model call and her now husband did I did a photo shoot for them.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, that's how
Hmm.
we
I
met.
was literally
Okay,
met
that's how you
through.
met, and you were like, "You're my person."
Yeah, I mean,
It was,
I don't
I
think
don't know.
it didn't like take off like right then and there,
Yeah.
but we had followed we I did the shoot and then we followed each other and then like shortly after that I booked my first wedding and I said I need you there basically.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love it.
after
Yeah.
that we've been best friends ever since. So,
Okay, I love it.
yeah.
What a fun story.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy the people you can meet, like truly authentic relationships you can find from social media. Like
Mhm.
the last 2 people on my Home in the Mountains team, Ashley and Caroline. Ashley is an amazing film photographer, and she and I would engage on social media randomly. And then I was looking for models for my Joshua Tree workshop. And I reached out to her and her partner Caroline, and she was like, "Yeah, we're all in." And so I had like never met them, and they modeled for my first workshop. And similarly, we became like best friends. You guys have probably, if you follow my work, you've seen them in my photos, because
Yeah.
they now model for every workshop. They're so, for me, like what I especially realized in New Zealand is they help me, like I simply couldn't offer the same intentional experience at Home in the Mountains of like getting to know a couple and capturing a couple for themselves. Like they're so vulnerable in what they're able to offer us to shoot
Mhm.
with, that every attendee, every single attendee, every workshop walks away being like, I am in love with them. Like I'm in love with, I am enamored with watching them engage with each other. So being able to implement that like really intentional, vulnerable, like sense of relationship into my workshops, I feel like is just like this invaluable like resource for new photographers to be like inspired by something other than aesthetics, right? To be inspired by like an emotion or a type of connection or something like that. So they've become like my models for all of my workshops, slash they help me out so much, like cooking, cleaning, all of that stuff. And then Ashley is an incredible photographer and creative, and she manages the Home in the Mountains Instagram as well. So that's the team.
Ah,
Clear
okay.
it
I was
up.
gonna
Yeah.
ask. I was gonna say, who does the socials? Because I'm like, you are great. I love it. Like
Oh,
your
thank
every
you.
like the captions are very intentional, which I
Oh,
like struggle so hard with captions. As a
wow.
girl, I'm like, I need help. I have a girl that helps me, and I'm like, you just do that every time because your girl's struggling. Because
You,
the girl that
you
I
just
use, I'm
you just
friends
feel
with.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
literally have been friends with her since middle school, and
oh, amazing.
I'm like, please, you know me, and you know
Mhm.
my voice, and if you can just like
Dude,
do
yeah.
it, because it's like a
Yeah.
lot easier if I were to help someone else, like from an
Yeah,
outside perspective. But the fact
absolutely.
when you try to do it for yourself, sometimes it's like really,
Oh
really hard.
yeah,
So it's nice to have a team. So
totally.
how many is that? Five?
So that's five. Yeah. No, okay. So Nora, Crystal, Kelly, Ashley, Caroline. Yeah, five. They're mostly my Home in the Mountains team. So like in-person experiences. However, Nora is like my personal assistant, Marcella Laine. She manages like emails, she manages Pinterest and blogging for me, which I didn't outsource until 2021 when I literally hit like just sheer burnout. And
Mm.
I was like, I have to take a step back. And I found her. So it's so funny is I did like a little assistant call on my story, and I got, some applications, and I was reviewing them, and it was like people who had experience being a virtual assistant or experience being a personal assistant, whatever. And I had given Nora a virtual mentorship like 6 months prior. And I just knew, I truly feel like when people ask me, like, what is my most, like, what powerful quality as being a photographer is I feel like I'm super intuitive. Like, I just like know when something makes sense to me. And I feel like I'm able to capture people really well because of that, but also make like business decisions because I'm like good at following my gut. So basically, I had like this assistant call out, but I just kept thinking about Nora. And it was so funny because, like, in no way did she say she wanted to be my assistant. Like, that
Yeah.
wasn't on the table. But during our virtual mentorship, I was just like, you are like me in mini form and you understand my brain. Like, as I speak, I can see you understanding me and like reflecting that energy to me. And so I randomly on a whim DM'd her and was like, hey, this is out of nowhere, but I'm looking for an assistant, and I know, you're a photographer, you're pursuing photography, but would you be at all interested in coming on, you know, um, remotely and helping me with some tasks? I think it'd be really mutually beneficial because you could like learn how to run this business. She was young and wanted to be a full-time photographer. I was like, perfect. I love this symbiotic relationship that you could repurpose the knowledge that you're gaining from working with me. And
Mm-hmm.
she immediately was like, yes, this is insane. I actually just took a semester off like today. I decided I'm not going back to school this semester because she had been going to NYU. She'd been kind of like bouncing around schools. And so it worked out so perfectly because she took a semester off. So she helped me in the season that I needed to like entirely revamp all of my systems and my website and like all of my things. Like she would fly out to Seattle and take care of my dog, take care of my apartment when I was traveling. So then
Yeah.
I'd come home and I would be like, know that my dog was good. I would have groceries in my fridge. Like literally, I was at a point of burnout where I like needed emotional support more
Mm.
than just like work support. And the ability to like bounce stuff off of her of being like learning to say no. Cause up until that point, I like had never said no to a job. And so
This sounds
she
like someone
basically
you know, Olivia.
helped. Yeah.
I,
Are,
I
are
say
you
I
like
say
that
no a
too?
lot. Yeah, I say no a
I
lot.
Oh, you
say
say
yeah.
no.
I've never said no. I don't think I've ever said no,
That's
actually.
how I was literally. So I went full time in 2016, and that was me until 2021. Like it almost killed me. So learn it ASAP, but also learn it
Darn
your
it,
own way.
Haley.
Hey, I did. I'm starting to like slowly outsource, and but I will say I have a lot of support from my husband
Yeah,
who
that's
helps
amazing.
me when I need it, and he also is like starting to do video, so he's also taking on some responsibility like that I'm not doing it by myself.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but I'm
Because even just
also
emotionally having someone there when you're shooting, it goes miles.
Oh, 100%. And like I swear I have like systems that I can like knowing your limits and also just what I with my personality, I'll go, 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 go until I'm literally burned out and I just need like a 48-hour reset and then I'm good to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like
No,
how I
for sure.
operate. I'm
I
psychotic.
look at my schedule from 5 years ago and I'm like,
I wish
what was I thinking? Like now, especially like that I'm a little bit older, I like need like a lot of time at home to reset, like it's
grind
not like
never
I
stops,
can't
my
do it in
woman.
24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Now I'm the type of person I need my time, my quiet time.
Yeah.
I need it. I don't do like Haley is so funny because when we do weddings together, she can see me slowly losing my
Fading. Yeah.
battery and she knows and she'll see and she'll be like, check yourself. And I'm like, okay. So
Okay, got it.
we're
Okay, that
both
is
like,
weird.
we're both like, check yourself. And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of, you know, being a
Well, as a photographer, it's like so
So,
so crazy, but you give so much of yourself,
Mhm.
like energetically, that it is so draining to do for long, long periods of time.
yeah.
do you
In a way
do
that other jobs don't. Yeah, sorry.
sorry, I'm the audio. Do you do any big weddings or is it just
Oh yeah.
intimate?
I shoot a lot of big weddings, like a pretty good balance. Something I say too, if you want to get into destination work, like most destination jobs are going to be like mid-size weddings. So like not niching, if that's something you want to do, I always say like not niching out to just elopements will like serve you in that way because a lot of people who are doing destination weddings are like more luxury or, like larger scale. So I shoot across the board. I have like no max limit of guests, no minimum limit of guests at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because I'm
Yeah.
like,
No, a
we
lot of people
talked a
ask.
lot about like just, elopements and stuff. And I
Yeah.
know that it's really hard to find a consistent, I mean, granted, you're at a different level in your business than a lot of photographers, but it's like, it's very encouraging to know that that's not the only thing you do. You do like
Yeah.
big weddings. Oh,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But you also
No.
said that you don't niche down, so that means that you do like family stuff too, and like, do you
So
do like
I
that kind of
really,
stuff or?
I will shoot my rules. I shoot families for past clients.
Okay.
I cannot say no
That's a
to a
good
past
rule.
client.
That's a good rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's also hard to enforce. Sometimes you feel like not a nice person when someone inquires and is so thrilled to work with you and they're like, but I've seen you do family stuff. And you're like, it's a rule, I'm sorry. But it took me so long to find these pillars or rules or whatever.
mhm.
And they're constantly evolving. That's the other thing. It's to pretend like I have these strict rules is, you know, not at all realistic. Like these rules are always ebbing and flowing. But right now where I'm at in my life, it's like, or in my career, I say I shoot families for previous clients. And I typically say in my off season, which I consider November to April.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
I
Awesome.
don't really shoot like a clients or I won't really shoot a family session in July just because I have such an abundance of other work. Like making time for that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've recently had to tell my people that I'm exclusively doing weekends for bridal clients because I was at a point where I'm like, I don't have a
Oh yeah.
single weekend available for any of my brides
Oh
because
yeah.
I have like a family session and no offense, but they're
Yeah. No,
not
that's
paying my bills.
yeah, no, that is a major rule too. Like I do not take couple sessions or engagements. Yeah, like Thursday through Sunday. Yeah, just like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a nice thing to know because I'm like,
And
how
once
do
you
these
start making these rules, write them down. You got to write them down because like I feel like it's easier to like forget or not even forget, but to like let yourself cross your own boundaries if you
Mhm.
don't like see it in tangible script all the time. But yeah, no, I was the same. Like I had gone, weekends or weeks in the summer where like I literally hadn't seen my friends or family because I was just shooting every Saturday and Sunday. And
Mhm.
it was just so exhausting. Sometimes people are turned off by it, but I also keep it on like my inquiry form. Like it's like, no, due to like shooting weddings, I only take on other sessions like certain days of the week.
Right.
It's really nice. Do
Yeah,
you ever travel for like just couple sessions and engagements that are like, I guess, not bridal clients?
I do. Yeah. So I am trying to reel that in a bit as well. But yeah,
It's a
so I
lot.
have my out of state pricing for a couple session is drastically higher. So I don't book a ton, but yeah, like I've traveled to Florida for a couple session. I've traveled to Iceland for a couple session, like for just engagement photos. But so for international, I consider my minimum to be 3,000. So like even if it's just like a 2 hour couple session, like I won't go to, I won't go to Iceland and like unless they book at least a $3,000 package. And then similarly, out of state, my minimum is 2,500. So like even Oregon, I had to like Cannon Beach is a 4 hour drive for me, and people just like it's just too far. So if they're
Yeah.
willing to meet my minimum for out of state, like totally cool. I go back and forth to California like all the time for a couple sessions, but that's a little bit more manageable. It's just like a
Mm.
hop on a plane. But like when travel becomes so crucial to your day to day, like it reframes in your brain a little bit. It's not, like no longer do I land and like act like I'm on vacation, like I get a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
work done. I like travel comfortably, like I have status on airlines and, I have like parking at the airport, those types of things that make traveling naturally more comfortable for you in terms of making it sustainable,
Oh,
like
girl.
someone can travel with me as well.
So my father works at an airline. So growing up I've always had like flight benefits. So I fly
Oh,
free.
amazing. Yeah.
So but I 100 like just the little things, packing a bag that's like good enough, having a pillow and a blanket that's good
Oh,
enough,
oh, dude. Yeah.
worth it. Like
Yeah.
worth every single penny because
100%.
it's the little things, honestly.
100. Like I keep my toiletry bag is packed. Like I don't like it. I have two of everything I need. So when I go to pack, I grab my toiletry bag and put it in my suitcase. And the amount of mental space that alone like gives me is truly insane.
Because
Like
like
yeah.
I was gonna say, even just brushing your teeth on a plane when you're about to land, like especially international, because like
Yeah.
usually it's at least, do you fly into Atlanta for any connections, or do you go like
Not really. Yeah.
that?
But I honestly haven't been like I've worked in Mexico a ton, but no, I haven't really like flown to South America. I've been to Haiti once where I connected in the South, but like I don't feel like I travel through the South a lot.
So you're connecting. So are you in Boston mostly, JFK, LaGuardia?
So Seattle,
She's
like
probably LA if she's
typically my flight route to Europe is Seattle has directs to Paris, London, Frankfurt. So like I just do direct
Yeah.
to
Okay, so
a
you go
hub
the
in Europe. Yeah, you go over. So like Seattle to Paris is 11 hours, Seattle to Amsterdam is 11 hours. And it's just like, so then once you get to one of the European hubs, it's just like a hop to whatever secondary city you need to get to.
That's crazy because we're on the opposite side, it's like it's obviously less hours, but I didn't necessarily realize that it was I get confused like on that
Yeah,
end. You don't have
no,
to necessarily words travel to the East Coast in order to go to Europe.
totally. Yeah,
That's
no, for
crazy.
sure. Yeah.
So I know you kind of touched earlier about where you find your inspiration, like with your clients. Is there anyone that is in the industry that you look up to, or is there anywhere that you kind of, who knows, maybe you don't even look on Instagram and you're like, I like to look at good old books to get my inspiration.
Like an original grandfather. Yeah. No, yeah.
But
Some of my biggest inspirations. So Mathilde Riesch, she is a landscape photographer out of Switzerland, and I actually had the most incredible opportunity to have her come speak at my Switzerland workshop, which was just amazing. Which also was so funny. I gave my presentation. So we had like a following each other relationship. I think I followed her for a long time though before she like noticed my work. So I don't really know how that evolved, but eventually I was like, "Would you want to come speak at my workshop?" And she was like so engaged, and it was amazing to have. She also shoots weddings in Switzerland and have like a local like facilitated conversation for the group there, which is so cool. But
that's awesome.
she's like one of my biggest inspirations. I absolutely adore her, and so having her come. What was so funny? My funny story is in Switzerland, like the day after she came and talked, I was giving one of my presentations, which is particularly on like diversifying where you find inspiration and like seeking it
Mm.
outside of social media. And I showed like people who inspired me. And I was showing her portfolio and I like noticed, I was like, Oh my God, she was here yesterday, but I had made this specific presentation like a year prior and I'd used it at my past workshop. And so then I was like, this is real life, like manifestation happening like in front of my
I
eyes.
love
So
that.
funny. Yeah. So I adore her work and she as a human is just like absolutely wonderful. Some of my favorite like conservation photographers are Paul Nicklin and Mitty. They're partners and they have a organization called Sea Legacy and they shoot like wolves and polar bears and like melting glaciers on the Arctic and stuff like that. And whales, like incredible whale photography, stuff like that. I really love following. And then some of like more realistically, some of my like friends truly are the most inspiring. Kelly Moore, who I was talking about earlier, she's my marketing girl.
Mhm.
Marketing girl is such not the right title. I need to like stress that. She is like my creative partner. She constantly inspires me in her creative like niches that
Brain.
she takes on. And then she also is a beautiful poet. She wrote me the most beautiful poem that's on the wall in my bedroom, and it makes me cry every time I read it.
We need to meet
And
her. I love that. Have her on the
yeah,
pod.
yeah. No, you should. You should. She's amazing. Um, but so her poetry is like super inspiring to me. She just sent me a Mary Oliver book of poems today that I'm like so excited to read. So
Oh,
yeah, poetry for sure is, especially in this time of transition for me. Like I've gone through a serious breakup in the last year and kind of trying to figure, turning 30 and trying to figure out where I see myself. Um, like poems and writing is really moving. I love Rick Rubin, The Creative Act. If you haven't read that, you should absolutely read it. Um, Robin Kimmer, Braiding Sweetgrass, that's another one of my biggest inspiration texts. But
I
yeah.
love it. I'm so glad to hear someone that's not just like, I don't know, I scroll on social media and I grab
Yeah.
inspiration off there and I'm like, that's not sustainable. That's recycling content and like trying to be original in an age where it's like literally just recycled content. There's no original ideas. I feel like your source of inspiration translates really well because you're not doing work like everybody else.
Oh, thanks.
Because, oh, I mean that seriously, because like you see a lot of photographers, at least where we are, like a trend goes around, everyone's doing the same thing, and every like to an extent,
Totally.
everyone's work looks the
Yeah.
same, and it's it's like a classic white barn, and there's
Yeah.
no creative aspect, and it's like there's an overconsumption of social media, and it's so hard because you want to like sustainably grab inspiration. So it's so nice to hear of like someone that's like has it with text and has it with poetry because it's even that it's your friend. Like I love that. Olivia,
Well,
you need to write me a poem.
well, to your point as well, like I think the consumption of social media can really contribute to like negative self-worth.
Mm,
Like comparison
yes.
concepts, all of that stuff. Like I think that's perpetuated so deeply by social media. So being able to detach from trying to create from something you've seen. This is something I said to a guy I was mentoring like years ago, and I remember it was the way he looked at me, like it just seemed like it clicked in his head. But like if you're always trying to recreate something you've seen already, you're never going to feel satisfied because it's never going to look like that. So when you detach from that concept and you're creating from what you're actively seeing, like I feel like that is what will translate in your work so much stronger.
Right. And
Oh,
I always try and tell my clients because personally I love looking at Pinterest boards. Like that's something that I really do like,
Totally.
but I have to tell them like you have to be really realistic because most of these pictures isn't it's not Georgia and like
Mhm.
we don't have snow top mountains and we don't have this and that. And so like your pictures that you get from Pinterest are not necessarily going to be what you actually get. And so I have to really tell people like you use this as inspiration like if you love the pose and stuff, but like this itself you can't recreate what they did here. Like it's
Totally.
we can
And people
just
don't
create.
realize that.
Yeah, people don't realize that we can't like specifically make this moment happen. We're going to make another moment happen, but it's not going to be specifically that moment.
Yeah,
Like
like you have to, people, when they hire you, like you are becoming the translator. Like they don't know how to communicate what they want. They just know visually. And like working with a lot of clients, it's so interesting to see some people get that. And then some people really don't get that. Like I have clients send me for their like couple sessions or whatever for engagement photos. I'll have them send me some of their favorite photos of mine. And oftentimes like after we've booked, it's like part of their questionnaire intake form. And like if we're shooting on the coast or something, and then they send me all mountain photos, I'm like, wait, do you realize this? Or even we're set to shoot, you know, in a certain season, and then all of their photos are a heavy emphasis on like golden light, I asked them to like reconsider if like how we're planning this so that we can execute what their vision is. Like being able to communicate with them to translate their vision is like so much what they're hiring you as a photographer for.
Right. I had to explain to a client actually recently about how sometimes my photos look more, and I don't like this word, but moody, dark and moody, rather than some of them look like lighter, because it just depends on the time of day, and also like, is it sunny? Is it
Totally.
overcast? Is it, maybe it's going to rain? Who knows? But I had to explain that to a client. I think, sometimes it can go like, we can start to become defensive if people use words that we don't like. I'm guilty. But it's just kind of like one of those things that you kind of just have to explain, because people don't know unless they're a part of the photography world. People don't know terms like
Mhm.
we do.
No,
Like,
absolutely.
your clients aren't going to know the difference between like a moody photo versus a light and airy photo. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of
Absolutely.
one of those things that,
I'm glad you pointed that out earlier when you're talking about it's so subjective
yeah.
because I literally had someone say, "You're light and airy," and another person say, "You're dark and moody." And I'm like, I try my hardest to like appreciate every art form in its entirety. And it's
Yeah,
like to hear, like, especially if it's the complete opposite of what you want, and then that's what you're being like put as like a label. It's like,
totally.
it's like, is that what you want? Because that's not me. But
Yeah.
then that's what they see. But what's really, like to kind of like just play into that, I've really tried to ask the couple, like, what do you like about this photo? And it's like, oh, I like how they're, laughing. I like how they're being super playful. And I'm like, well, if you have a very like intimate relationship, it's going to be really, really easy to like recreate a moment because that's how you are. But what makes this photo so amazing is that it's irreplaceable. It's not, you're not able to replicate it because it's so unique to them. So, we might not be able to get your arm position like that. So I'm not going to put your arm right there because it's not going to look the same. It's not going to feel the same. It's probably they were just like walking and she had her arm around him and they stopped and they swayed and they kissed because that's their relationship. And it's
Mhm.
like the more that, I've grown in this industry, I've found that my clients are now aligning more with that. They're not like, hey, I saw this one photo on Pinterest that's a complete opposite style as you, and I want this exact posing. It's more of like people, they understand that this is how we are achieving this, where this is, I feel like I'm your ideal client and I align with you, and that's why I chose you. Because for so long, at least in Georgia, there's like levels, I guess, because there's like budget brides that are like very like they're only shopping for photographers. And then you get to like a medium range where you get more appreciative people that are like they genuinely love you, they love your work, they love your art, and they're like, I want beautiful images for my wedding, and I don't necessarily, I have a budget in mind, but I don't like, I want you to. So like now that we're kind of in this era of like getting better, I feel like we've had clients more aligned with it. Of course, some people they don't necessarily get the whole industry because it's their first time like getting married and stuff. But
Totally.
okay, we have like two more questions because I
Yeah.
definitely want to be mindful of your time. But tell us about your iPhone course. Like I need to know all the details. I saw that you posted this.
Yeah.
Like I need to know.
Yeah, so it's been like a long time dream of mine to make a more accessible photography course for people because I feel like so much education and stuff is geared towards professional photographers, whereas I feel like so many people I know in my life and my clients, etc., want to explore their creativity in a new way that's not necessarily as serious as owning a DSLR. I also, one of my first mentors who was like he was my boyfriend in college and he was a photographer, and he gave me my first ever Canon Mark 5D Mark II when we were like 20. He would always say like the best tool is the one you have in your pocket, which has just always stuck with me and been such a pillar in my brand and business. Even like traveling and stuff, I prefer to shoot a lot on my phone because of the accessibility. I mean, it's also challenging because also, there's times where I'm carrying 4 film cameras and a Polaroid and my DSLR and phone, and I'm like, what medium do I want to capture this in? And
Yeah.
that right there is such a interesting concept because I'm like, this moment that's happening, what language do I want to use to tell this, right? Like that right there is a constant question if you're a photographer, especially who's like experimenting with mediums. So basically the course it applies to photography as a whole. So while it is targeted towards a phone or an iPhone, it is also really overall just talks about light composition and color and their impact in creating a photograph. And then it goes into talking about like specifically optimizing your phone for photography and videography when using it every day. And also then it goes into like the application of those concepts we went over. So the creative concepts of composition, color, and light, and then using those within your phone. So like examples of direct light and how that's impacting color, clarity, and shapes and texture. And then an example of golden light and how that also impacts those things, as well as like translating mood through color, translating mood through light, those different constructs. And then it kind of closes with my favorite thing to talk about, which is storytelling. I feel like while talking about a lot of creative stuff is like totally like objective, or I'm sorry, subjective. I feel like storytelling can be a little bit more objective in terms of like, I can, when people ask me like why I chose to take a photo of a certain thing, especially people I'm mentoring, I don't necessarily always feel like I have a good answer because I'm like, I just saw it. And that's where I feel like my intuitive part of my brain has really propelled me forward as a photographer. But when I'm talking about storytelling, that is something I feel like I can always offer my mentees or attendees or whatever at my workshops in a really like solid form of, if you do these things and then you apply these creative techniques, then you will have like a dynamic story. You will go beyond taking portraits and you will capture like the essence of a feeling or experience. And so storytelling is like the third section that is like basically about tapping into being a noticer and picking up on things around you that are contributing to the narrative beyond yourself or beyond visually. So considering, scent and like touch and all of your senses and stuff like that, as well as like geography and like why the clouds, photos of clouds might contribute to the story because of where you are in the world, things like that. And then it closes with just like basic mobile editing. So using VSCO or VSCO, and like how I use it for mobile editing and stuff like that, like really applicable, approachable. There's like a clean edit, a filmy edit that I go over, and then just kind of editing intuitively based on the photo. So it's just supposed to be really approachable for all levels of people or photographers or creatives. And I just wanted it to get to as many people as possible. So I am coming out with like more extensive courses for photographers this year, which I'm really excited about, particularly about landscapes, composing for natural landscapes, artful compositions for shooting in nature, kind of like tiny people vibes. This I wanted to be like something I could share with my clients, share with people who just like want to explore their creativity and not necessarily take it on as a profession, and then just make it like a little bit more of an accessible, approachable intro to photography.
The fact that like content creators are becoming a thing, I feel like so many people, this is like the perfect time for something like that, because you really only see very extensive courses. Like I don't know if you're familiar
Totally.
with the Hart University, but they have like a photo major, a photo minor, and it's all for like actual wedding photographers, like creative entrepreneurs on the photography side. So the fact that just anybody, it's not even niche down. I feel like every successful photographers like, you need to niche down, you need to niche down, you need to niche down. But you're more of like, I like that I'm not subject to one. I'm like, I can move and I'm like, I can kind of go with the wind and like pick what I want. And I feel like this aligns with your brand a lot because
I love
it
that.
applies to everyone. I mean, even if like you don't know what you don't know too. So it's
Yeah,
like even just having someone point out the little things. And I love that I feel like this is really important for photographers because we sometimes forget the basics and we need to go back to the basics
totally.
and really just like romanticizing your life. I feel like really aligns with that because if you look at the shadows in your house, you don't even think about pay attention to what the light looks
Totally.
like. Or,
Totally.
if you have an animal, just like look at them and like sometimes you'll see it. and you don't know what you don't know, and having someone just a little bit of information just click with you, like you were saying
Totally.
earlier. It's just sometimes it takes one person to say one thing to you for just all these things to click. And I feel like a course like that will help a lot of people, even if they don't even think that they're creative
Yeah.
driven at
Side
all.
Well, that's the thing
question.
is like, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Go
No,
say
no,
whatever you need to say. I can pin it.
no. Okay.
It's pinned.
That just really quick, that what I was fuck. That's the thing is like we all have access to this tool, right? So like we all have access to a really quality camera. People used to
Mm.
always ask me like, do you hate how good iPhone cameras are like as a photographer? And I'm like, no, I love that everyone has access to a camera. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not a good photographer because I have a DSLR. You know, I'm a good photographer because I'm really
Period.
effective at using it.
Right.
I'm pinning that. We need to clip that right there. Say that one more time. I'm not a good photographer because of my camera.
That's what I was
That's
gonna.
so
I
funny.
was gonna ask you. Did you go to school to be a photographer?
No, so I went to school for graphic design.
Okay.
So, like in the same realm of
Right.
Yeah.
creativity.
Similar vein. Yeah.
Yes, similar vein. But like I went to a state school that like I didn't learn shit about graphic design, let's be
Yeah.
real. Like but so I went to a state school, I did graphic design there. I met said boyfriend who gave me said DSLR, and he was like super creative, very impactful in my life. And we were together for 6 years. We broke up at like 23. And during that time was like when I was exploring going full time. I was a creative lead for a nonprofit that did agriculture development in Haiti and Cambodia, and I did photo and video projects with them, which is where traveling kind of started to come into my world of photography, and then I've been full time ever since.
You've
Yeah. That's
lived a lot
awesome.
of life. I love it. You give me like cool older sister, but not old enough to be aunt, and I love that.
Thank God, first of all. I didn't know where that was going, but not old enough to be aunt. Thank you. I love the title of cool older sister. Well, I'm the baby of my family, and I had never had this like role of mentor until Nora, my assistant, and I love being like proud of her and cheering her on. It's like the most fun thing to do, which I feel like maybe finding that quality in myself has led me to feel like qualified to educate or lead these retreats. Like I feel really like I love being proud of my little babies, you know?
It's like maternal adjacent is how
Yeah.
I would that's how I would describe it. Because
I
I'm an
am
older
like a
sister.
nurturer to the core. I'm a two for
Yes.
sure.
What's your
Yeah.
sign?
I'm a Cancer.
Me
Like
too.
deep.
I was gonna ask you if you were because you said something to me. Well, you said
Mhm.
something about like you trusting your gut, and I was like, she's a
Yeah.
Cancer. I was like, she's a
Yeah.
Cancer.
No, when you said June and that you're a homebody, I was like, yeah, she's a
Yeah.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Okay,
When in
so
July?
can you
July
guess what I
15th.
am?
15th.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm June 24th. Oh, I almost forgot my
Nice.
birthday.
No, I do that actually all the time. A few years ago in therapy, I was like, ever since I've been 26, and my therapist was like, Marcy, you're 27. And I was like, fuck. Yeah.
That's so funny. The fact that it's in therapy too.
Yeah, I know.
Period. That's such a
It's
Cancer thing to say. I love it.
1,000%. Yeah, no, the Cancer runs deep in me. Like,
Oh, me
really, yeah.
too.
I'm a Cancer moon, if that
You
counts.
are
I'm a
cutie.
Cancer moon.
And
He's
what's
he's a
what's your
softie.
sun?
Can you guess what I am?
Leo?
No, think
Close.
about it. Energetic, a lot,
Yes.
fiery.
Close. Leo adjacent.
Aries?
Yes.
Mhm.
Checks out. Checks
Yeah.
out.
And
What am
I'm
I
an
actually? Aries.
Aquarius rising.
Aquarius are there. Okay, so wise.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
think so. Maybe
You're
sometimes.
like, I like to think so. Yeah.
On the depends on the day.
Yeah.
But I align with every single one in different ways because
Okay.
I have my husband's a Pisces, my mom's a
Mm.
Scorpio, my sister's a Cancer.
Yeah. I used to say every man I've ever loved was a Scorpio. Um,
They're
and
the
then
they're
Charlie,
the
my ex, was an
worst.
Aries, but
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Aries men ain't it, girl. I'm
it's okay.
sorry.
We love Charlie. We have no bad feelings towards any of
Okay,
these.
good.
We have no bad feelings towards any of the men in my life. But yeah,
You need guess what? Okay, I'm gonna put you on something. I don't know if you've ever dated a man. You need a Taurus.
really,
They're stable, they're sturdy men.
yeah, the bull. Oh, she shows me her ring. She's like, you
Yeah.
need a Taurus
No, I
girl.
married one and they yeah, no. They're yeah. I honestly I didn't ever think that I would marry one just because they're a little bit like they're stubborn, but it's fun.
Yeah,
Stuck in their
I
ways
guess
a
so.
little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought I would. Okay, so I dated this British guy for a minute who was an Aries, and I was like, nothing bad to say about him, but I was just like, oh, he was an Aries. And then Charlie, my last partner of 3 years, was an Aries, and I was like, I love him, he's an Aries. So it's like funny how it's
We
funny
can
how
take different forms. We really, really
yeah.
can. See,
Well,
here's the
yeah.
thing. You either love us or you
Mm.
hate us. There's no in between.
So that's the thing, is like that's how I feel about most areas in my life. And Charlie has this like grounding energy. It might be his Cancer moon, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
He's
100%.
emotional, but he's not emotional forward. He's like he has this wisdom and control in an Aries that I've never seen. Like a lot of Aries I've seen are like intense first, whereas I
Mhm.
feel like Charlie is like intense but like stable. So that was so rude. I'm sorry. Not that you're not
No,
stable.
no,
I know.
no, you're good. That I would say that I'm
He's not
stable for
stable.
Olivia. For Olivia. Let's be real. On a wedding day, who do you say needs to do
Mm.
the family shot list?
Ooh, ooh. I
I'm
love
that
this
girl.
Yeah, no,
application, this
it's
real life application.
she's more assertive than I am. So like
Mm.
that's where we help each other with weddings and stuff. Like she is much more like a control, like she will take control and I'm much more of the laid back. I'm very chill when it comes to weddings. I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. We'll get it."
Yeah,
Whatever. And she's very much
totally.
like time on time, time.
Yeah.
So we
Wait, what's your rising and moon?
so my moon is a Capricorn and then I'm a rising Scorpio.
Okay.
That's why I have
Okay.
That
dark.
every
Yeah.
single one checks
No,
out.
my rising's Leo, which is pretty on. I'm pretty like outgoing and like
I
look at
was
me.
gonna say you have a fire energy at some capacity, and I love it. I'm here for it.
No, I'm really spread out. So then my moon is Gemini. So I've got air, fire, and water, which I lead with water. Like I am a
Wow, so
water
you're
active, but
balanced.
I am balanced. Yeah.
Yeah. I am
No.
not. I am not. I have a lot of cancer, so that's where I
The cancer prevails. The cancer prevails. I am an emotional
it makes
human,
us
but my
funny.
therapist says that's what makes me good at my job also is my emotion.
It also
Oh,
makes us
for
funny, very funny. So,
period. Okay, one more question, and we'll let you go.
I
What are
love
you
it.
reading, watching, and listening to?
Okay. Ooh, good question. Okay, I'm currently listening to a book called Soul Boom by Rainn Wilson.
Okay.
So Rainn Wilson is Dwight from The Office,
mhm.
but it's about spirituality and why we need a spiritual reckoning. Basically, like he's not saying you need to have religion or practice religion, but you should have some relationship to spirituality. And
Mm.
it's a really awesome like book, universal in terms of like exploring your spirituality and like how the different elements of like religion and how it can be meaningful to a person's life journey. And also he reads it, so that's amazing. I'm really into books that are read by the author and by knowing the author. So Seth Rogen's audiobook, have you guys listened to your book? Okay,
I'm gonna
funniest.
I'm audiobook girl, so I'm like
Yeah.
all of these, I'm gonna go back and listen to this episode. I'm gonna be like writing down all the names of all the people and taking notes so that when we post this, we'll have like everything.
Oh, amazing. Seth's audiobook is the greatest piece of media to exist in the last like decade, I swear. It came out in like 2021, but I've listened to it like when I'm like feeling kind of sad, it's just what I listen to. It's basically an audiobook of his life from like being a kid, getting into comedy in his like teens, moving to LA, and then just like working in the industry. And it's hilarious. It's feel good. It's like relevant to LA and Hollywood, which is so fun to listen to all of his stories, like meeting Kanye or like his funny, you know, introducing Eminem at the Grammys or whatever. It's like so funny and applicable and just feel good. And that's like one of my favorite things too. I haven't, okay, for watching, so this isn't current, but I feel like it defines me, so I have to share it. I had never seen Game of Thrones until last year.
You
And
just
What
think
season are you on right now currently?
I've watched it like 3 times.
I'm
But I
on
started it in winter of 2022.
I just got done with Battle of the Bastards for the second
Oh
time.
my God. I literally watched that Saturday night for fun. Oh my gosh.
Kills
Wait,
me every
how did you do it?
time.
Wait, so this is your first time watching it?
No, it's my second time, but I
Oh,
don't
okay.
remember it. So I was like, who's gonna win? But I was like, I know who's gonna win. But I was like, who's gonna win?
But like you don't know like the intricate details of the battle. Wait, that's like one of my okay. Do you have, well, I guess if you're rewatching, do you have like top five favorite episodes?
Okay, Battle of the Bastards,
So
absolutely.
good.
Spoiler alert. Don't listen. I'm gonna give you 4 seconds. One, two, three, four. I'm sorry. Ned Stark dying
Oh,
was such a good episode. The fact, like in the episode, I think it's no, I think it's the same one where Joffrey made Sansa look at the head.
oh gosh. Yeah, it's like so devastating.
Joffrey dying.
Oh, Joffrey dying is okay, because that was like in episode three or episode two of a season. It was such a curveball. I was like, my boyfriend was like watching me, and I was like, what are you watching? And then I was like losing my mind, like the way he dies so suddenly. Maybe I'll watch that today. But no, when
Yes.
Stark dying, what was so funny when he dies, I was watching like it was season one, obviously I'm getting committed, and literally as Arya is like running up there about to try to save him, I was like in my head, I'm like, he's the main character, like Arya's gonna save him.
No
And
one's safe.
literally as they pick up the sword, it clicked in my head. I was like, this is what they talk about in Game of Thrones, is like no one's safe, everyone dies, all your favorite people die. And I was like, this is what they're talking about, like this is it. And so it was funny as I watched them swing the sword, I was like, oh, I understand the show now. Yeah.
And I really the episode where Rob gets married, I just
Oh,
love I will watch the ceremony scene because it's
it's
like
funny because I just get pissed. I'm like, you are ruining everything. And the phrase are obviously going to fuck you over. And
Red
this was a
Wedding
terrible decision.
episode. I really don't like it. Every time I dread it because it's so the I can't. I'm gonna get upset.
No, his monologue, yeah, like it's right before they like start killing everyone, is like you hear it and you're like, ah.
And they did not do Blackfish justice, let me just say. And the character development of Jamie,
Oh,
unmatched.
so good. It's like crazy because season one, you're like, I could never like this character. And then season eight, you're like, oh, that's one of my all-time favorite episodes. We like to call it Chain and Winterfell. So you probably don't remember it, but it's the episode before the long night, and you will get there. It's definitely like it's episode two of season eight. One of my favorite episodes ever. They're just like
Wait, you
chilling
like
in
season
Winterfell.
8?
Yeah, like the final season.
You you're not a hater of season 8.
I hate the ending,
Okay. Okay, I can
but
align.
like I can still appreciate the cinema. And
Okay,
like
we
episode two, I love The Long Night. Like I know people are like, I couldn't see it when it came out on TV, whatever. I love The Long Night. And the episode before it is just like the greatest episode of all time.
okay, I'm gonna be hyper aware when I'm
Yes.
watching it, being like, okay, this is
And
this
then just all of end of season five, like right where you are, slash also, no, end of season six, end of season five, both of them. Ooh, like when Daenerys sails, like so good.
I just yes, I agree. I'm like, okay, I love it. I'm here for it. I'm so
Poor Olivia.
Olivia does
She's
not
seen it. No, that's
Olivia's
okay.
she doesn't get it yet, but when she does,
I just don't watch. I don't. I prefer to listen to podcasts and like watch
Mhm.
YouTube than
Yeah.
get into.
I feel that. No, I'm not really a TV person either. That's why when you're like, what are you watching? I was like, well, I watched Game of Thrones a year ago, and it's all I think about. And that's why I get too obsessed with it.
Well, it's like I'm just waiting for Bridgerton to come back out, and that's when I'll be fully back into my like Netflix
There you go.
thing. So
Yeah.
oh,
Waiting.
I didn't even ask you this, which I don't
Yeah.
know how. Last
Yeah.
question, and we can be done. So,
No.
what gear do you use? Like, what is your
Oh, I have R5s and I have the 28 to 70. So I used to have like well, I still have a pretty solid kit, but like I used to shoot partially Canon. Is
five
there my
R5 gang.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
it's like
R6 Mark II
amazing.
girly.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a sexy camera too. I used to, okay, so I was like always a Canon girly. And then in 2020, I got a Sony A7 III just like for fun to play with it. And I got 24 to 70. And long story short, that was my like personal camera just for fun. And I wanted to try mirrorless. And I knew that the Canon's mirrorless series wasn't like super great yet.
Mm.
And so I got the Sony, and then I was on a shoot in Alaska in like early 2021. And we were like on a glacier, like a mile hike in, and my cannon gear all stopped working. And I did this because it was too cold. It was like negative 18 degrees, and we had been out for like 2 hours. And so I was forced to do the shoot on my Sony with like not a lot of experience shooting on it. Like I didn't, thank God it was a zoom lens, but so I did the whole shoot with my Sony, and I actually was like, wait, I really liked shooting on that Sony. So then for years, it was like the weirdest thing about me. People would ask me so many questions because I'd have like one Canon and one Sony, and I'd be like, I don't know, works for me. And then just this last summer, that Sony was like on its last leg, and I was like, I'll dabble with Canon. So then I got the R5, and then the mirrorless. I'm like, yeah, this is the pinnacle of both worlds. This is like my Canon performance as well as my mirrorless performance, and I'm gonna use this. And now I really just carry my 28-70. I don't really need anything else.
Yeah,
I mean, I
That
take
is
backup, and
Olympic.
I still have a kit of 24, 35, 85, but I mostly just use the 28-70.
Yeah.
Yeah, I align with all the gears. I love it. I'm literally booking a mentor session with you
Oh,
because
great. Can't
I love
wait.
you're my older sister. Like
Would
that's like
love
the
to be your older
energy
sister.
that I've never had because I'm the oldest sister. So
Oh,
thank you.
yes. No, we can switch roles. I love it.
I love
And if
it. I
either
love
of
it.
you are interested in my course, my phone photography course, let me know. I'll send it to you guys. You can just take a look at it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
No, I would love to
Oh,
hear your guys' thoughts.
oh
Oh,
my gosh,
You
absolutely.
guys.
We're here for it. Literally everything.
Thanks.
Keep doing you because you're amazing and people even from little town in Georgia are watching.
Oh, you sweet angel. Thank you. You keep doing you too, girl. You guys are killing it. This was so fun.
if
Oh,
we ever find ourselves in Seattle, we'll definitely hit you up.
Let me know. Let me
I'm
know.
like, let me take
Great
pictures of you
place in
and
the
my
summer.
dog, please.
Yeah, no, he's oh my. I wish I could show you him. He's just like passed out in the cushions.
It's so
Clearly, I
nice
love him.
to be a dog.
Yeah, no, I've been shopping for a dog bed for him for like 5 days, and it's been so shockingly hard. And then I'm like, well, the price, okay, the style I want is like $250. And I'm like, well, you're not getting this dog bed. And then I like look at him on every piece of furniture lounging, and I'm like, why am I even buying you a bed?
Hmm.
Oh,
He,
he's so
He's
cute.
a
I won't
man
use
his own
the bed.
bed.
Yeah.
yeah, my dog doesn't use her bed. She just uses
Oh,
everything
really?
else. Yeah,
She
no,
should see everything else. Yeah.
no. She makes a bed everywhere. So
Oh,
she
yeah.
That's so funny.
We got love
Um,
them. Love the pets.
all right, let's like say like bye to the audience and then I will like actually say like bye to you, but I don't want to just be like bye, click.
yeah.
Perfect. I love it.
All right, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Marcella Laine. You can find Home in the Mountains on Instagram at Home in the Mountains _. We're coming out with some fun merch that I'm really excited about. So we have cutie dad hats that say Home in the Mountains. And then I have a fun shirt design coming up that's like obscure. It's not like this is my workshop. It's like a cutie oversized shirt girl. So that's exciting. You can find I'm also so I'm also a novice potter. Like I make ceramics.
Cool. She's a
I
multifaceted woman. We love it.
multifaceted woman. And that brand, I'm like really in exciting stages of developing that brand right now. And it's going to be called Wolf Solace. So you can find that soon too.
That's so
Cool.
cute. Okay, everyone, please check out the Queen. Everything that we talked about will be listed below. So just check her out. It was
Thanks,
so nice
guys.
talking to you. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
it was so great talking to you guys. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay. Good.